This show is part of OnePlace, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to our daily Roundup. We have a packed episode today covering everything from medical breakthroughs to legal rulings and lifestyle trends. Let's get you caught up on the latest news and analysis.
Researchers suggest renaming PCOS to include male symptoms.
A family shares the struggle of childhood dementia.
The NHS expands weight loss jabs for heart protection.
Ultra-processed foods may damage metabolic and reproductive health.
Wellness enthusiasts await RFK Jr.'s move on peptides.
Supreme Court rules against Colorado's conversion therapy ban.
Reformer Pilates becomes a massive global fitness trend.
Clinics debate adding coaching to ketamine depression treatments.
Psychologists identify habits for healthy, non-monogamous relationships.
Short-acting DMT shows promise for treating major depression.
First, the PCOS debate. Polycystic ovary syndrome, or PCOS, has long been defined as a female reproductive disorder. However, researchers are now pushing for a name change because evidence suggests men can experience a male version of the condition. Men like Al Barris, who grew up seeing his sisters struggle with PCOS, noticed he shared many of the same metabolic issues, like insulin resistance and early hair loss. Scientists argue the current name is misleading because it focuses on ovaries, even though the condition is actually a complex endocrine disorder affecting hormones and metabolism.
The push to rename the syndrome has been quietly building for over a decade. A recent article in the journal Fertility and Sterility even called the current name an enemy to proper diagnosis. It turns out that what were once thought to be cysts are actually arrested follicles, and they aren't even the primary indicator of the condition. By moving away from a name tied strictly to female anatomy, doctors hope to better identify and treat the underlying hormonal imbalances that affect both men and women, potentially improving long-term health outcomes for everyone.
Next, a heartbreaking diagnosis. The story of Sophia Scott highlights the devastating reality of childhood dementia. Diagnosed with Sanfilippo syndrome just before her 4th birthday, Sophia is now 15 and facing a very uncertain future. Sanfilippo is a rare, incurable genetic condition that causes rapid cognitive and physical decline. Her parents, Darren and Amanda, were initially given very little information or support, essentially told to just go home and make memories. It is a heavy burden for any family, as the disease slowly robs a child of their ability to speak, walk, and eventually, their life.
What makes this condition particularly cruel is that children often appear perfectly healthy in their early years. Sophia loved dancing and cooking before the symptoms became noticeable around age 6. Now, her father Darren campaigns to raise awareness, hoping to help other families navigate the isolation that comes with such a rare diagnosis. The physical and emotional toll is immense, with Amanda leaving her job to provide full-time care. Their journey underscores the desperate need for more research and better support systems for families dealing with progressive, terminal childhood illnesses, like this one.
Now to weight loss jabs. The NHS in England is set to offer the weight loss drug Wegovy to over 1 million people, specifically to prevent heart attacks and strokes. The health watchdog NICE has recommended the weekly injection for overweight individuals who already have cardiovascular issues. Interestingly, clinical trials show that the drug reduces the risk of major heart events by 20%. What is most surprising is that these benefits appeared very early in the trials, often before significant weight loss occurred. This suggests that the medication might work directly on the heart and blood vessels, rather than just through shedding pounds.
This rollout, expected to begin this summer, could be a game-changer for public health. With around 100,000 hospital admissions for heart attacks each year in the UK, providing an extra layer of protection is vital. Patients will be able to self-administer the drug at home using a pen injector, provided they meet the BMI criteria and are under the supervision of a GP. While it is not a replacement for statins or a healthy diet, experts believe it could prevent thousands of future health crises for those living in fear of a second heart attack.
Moving to diet research. A new study published in Cell Metabolism has found that a diet high in ultra-processed foods can impair both metabolic and reproductive health in just 3 weeks. Researchers conducted a crossover study with young men, comparing a diet of whole foods to one filled with industrial formulations like packaged snacks and instant noodles. The most alarming finding was that these negative effects happened regardless of how many calories the participants consumed. Even when the total energy intake was matched, the quality of the food itself caused significant damage to the body's internal systems, including male reproductive markers.
Ultra-processed foods are designed to be hyper-palatable and convenient, but they often lack essential fiber and minerals while being loaded with additives and refined sugars. This study highlights that it is not just about overeating, it is about the chemical makeup of what we consume. The researchers observed that the participants' health markers declined rapidly on the processed diet, suggesting that our bodies are simply not equipped to handle these highly refined ingredients. It serves as a stark reminder that focusing solely on calorie counting might miss the bigger picture of how food quality impacts our long-term vitality.
Now, the peptide debate. The wellness community is buzzing after Robert F. Kennedy Jr. suggested that the FDA might soon loosen restrictions on several popular peptides. Peptides are short chains of amino acids that many people use for tissue repair, skin health, and longevity. Currently, the FDA prohibits compounding pharmacies from making many of these substances due to safety concerns and a lack of clinical data. This has led to a massive, unregulated market where enthusiasts buy research-grade versions from overseas websites. Kennedy's comments have sparked hope that these therapies might soon be available through more ethical and regulated domestic suppliers.
While the Department of Health and Human Services hasn't confirmed a specific timeline, the goal is to ensure Americans have access to high-quality products. Medical experts warn that the current wild west of peptide use is dangerous, as people are often injecting themselves with substances of unknown purity. If the FDA does move these peptides onto an authorized list, it would allow for better oversight and professional guidance. For now, the longevity world remains in a holding pattern, waiting to see if Peptide Liberation Day will actually arrive or if safety concerns will keep these treatments on the sidelines.
Next, a legal ruling. The Supreme Court has ruled against a Colorado law that banned conversion therapy for LGBTQ+ minors. In an 8-1 decision, the justices sided with a Christian counselor who argued that the ban on talk therapy violated her First Amendment rights. Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote that the law essentially censored speech based on a specific viewpoint, which the Constitution is designed to protect. The court has sent the case back to a lower court to see if the law can meet a very high legal standard, but the ruling signals a significant shift in how states can regulate medical talk therapy.
Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was the lone dissenter, arguing that states should have the power to regulate healthcare to protect children from discredited practices. She expressed concern that this decision could impair the ability of states to oversee medical care in general. On the other side, the counselor involved, Kaylee Childs, argued that her faith-based approach is different from the harmful physical practices of the past. This case is part of a broader trend where the Supreme Court is increasingly skeptical of laws that might infringe on religious expression, even when those laws are intended to protect vulnerable groups.
Now for fitness trends. Reformer Pilates is taking over the fitness world, with studios popping up in neighborhoods everywhere. Unlike traditional mat Pilates, the Reformer version uses specialized equipment with straps, pulleys, and springs to provide resistance. It has become a massive business, with instructor applications up nearly 1,000% in the last year. Celebrity endorsements from stars like Margot Robbie and Dua Lipa have fueled the fire, making it a must-do workout for many. However, the trend has also faced some criticism for being tied to a very specific, often expensive aesthetic that can feel exclusionary to some people.
Despite the intimidating look of the machines, which some compare to medieval contraptions, devotees swear by the results. Many report feeling taller and stronger after just one session. The workout focuses heavily on core strength and controlled movements, which can be challenging for the uncoordinated but rewarding for those who stick with it. The rise of the Pilates princess aesthetic on social media has certainly helped drive its popularity among younger generations. Whether it is a passing fad or a permanent fixture, The sheer growth of the industry shows that people are willing to pay for this high-tech approach to self-care.
Next, ketamine therapy insights. Since the FDA approved ketamine for depression in 2019, infusion clinics have spread rapidly across the country. However, there is a major debate among providers about how the drug should be administered. Some believe it should be a purely pharmacological treatment, while others argue that incorporating psychotherapy or coaching is essential for long-term success. A new clinical trial at Massachusetts General Hospital is looking to settle this. Researchers want to know if the psychological support provided during or after the trip makes the treatment more effective than just receiving the drug alone in a clinical setting without any guidance.
While studies show that ketamine can reduce suicidal thoughts and depressive symptoms within hours, some experts worry that without therapy, patients might miss out on the full benefits. The Wild West nature of the current clinic landscape means that regulations are thin and the quality of care varies wildly. By studying the role of a psychedelic coach, scientists hope to create a more standardized and effective protocol. This could help move ketamine therapy from a niche, somewhat controversial option into a more mainstream and reliable tool for mental health professionals dealing with treatment-resistant depression.
Now to relationship habits. A study in the archives of sexual behavior has identified 9 core habits that help people in non-monogamous relationships stay healthy and happy. These include things like openly discussing jealousy, managing sexual health, and being transparent about sharing resources. Interestingly, the researchers found that these communication practices actually improve satisfaction for monogamous couples as well. The goal of the study was to understand how people successfully navigate the complex dynamics of having multiple partners without the typical conflict and discord that many expect. It turns out that intentionality and clear boundaries are the keys to making any relationship style work.
Lead researcher Justin Mogilski noted that while humans might have evolutionary traits like mate, guarding, and jealousy, many people are finding ways to circumvent these through specific psychological habits. By creating a questionnaire to measure these behaviors, the team hopes to provide better tools for therapists working with diverse relationship structures. The study suggests that the skills learned in polyamorous or open relationships, like radical honesty and proactive conflict resolution, are universally beneficial. It challenges the idea that non-monogamy is inherently unstable, showing instead that with the right habits, these partnerships can be just as fulfilling and secure as traditional ones.
Finally, the DMT study. Researchers at Imperial College London have found that DMT, a short-acting psychedelic, could be a breakthrough for treating major depressive disorder. Unlike psilocybin, which requires a 6-hour session, the effects of intravenous DMT last only about 20 to 30 minutes. This makes it much more practical for clinical use, as it doesn't require a full day of medical supervision. In a small trial of adults who hadn't responded to traditional antidepressants, a single dose of DMT paired with talk therapy provided significant relief for up to 3 months. It offers a faster, more scalable alternative for mental health treatment.
The study's author, Tommaso Barba, emphasized that the brevity of the experience is its greatest strength. Because DMT works so quickly on the brain's serotonin system, it can trigger a meaningful shift in mood without the logistical hurdles of longer-lasting psychedelics. This could make psychedelic-assisted therapy accessible to a much wider range of patients who currently struggle with the time and cost of existing options. While more research is needed to confirm these early findings, the prospect of a 30-minute treatment providing months of relief is a major step forward in the search for new ways to combat severe depression.
That's our roundup for today. Thank you for joining us for these important stories. We'll be back tomorrow with another briefing on the topics you follow most. Have a great day.